Hello and welcome to the Digital Marketing Podcast. I am your host, Patrick Lewis, and today I am joined by Head of Communications and Operations at APGA, Lawrence Shelton. Enjoy. Thank you for taking the time to speak to us. Lawrence Shelton, Head of Communications and Operations. I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions today that will probably seem incredibly naive, so I apologize ahead of time. But just to get things started, what are we communicating? What are we operating?
Oh, that's okay. So yes, thanks for having me. What are we communicating? What are we operating? So I work for an association. So it's Australian Pipelines and Gas. We look after industry, and this is everything from transmission pipelines all the way through to some small suppliers and family-owned businesses. So what are we communicating? Uh, Communicating really about the industry and the value and the intent and the advocacy within that space. So it's quite a broad range of communication.
Mm-hmm.
What are we operating? Everything from the day to day. How do we get things in and out of the association through to how do we manage members more broadly? So the operation side of the business is really just how do we keep things ticking over.
Sure. You mentioned it there. You mentioned members, and I've been doing a bit of research on the APGA and just kind of, and you talk about members a lot. Now, without going too far down the APGA rabbit hole, when you talk about members, what are we talking? Who are these people? Who are members?
Oh, that's a great question, actually. So we consider members as organizations that uh, are linked to the industry and are members of the association through payment, right? So they pay us to become a member of the association, and through that membership, we give access to uh, all the employees of those companies, and we consider them our members.
Right.
So when I say access, I mean we give them the opportunity to engage in all the APGA events, all the industry-related research that we do, get involved in all the committees and forums that we have at the association, and really bring them into the ecosystem,
Mm-hmm.
if you want to call it that, and
Sure.
make them a part of the community that we try and host. So that's what we consider a member.
Interesting. And
Mm.
then how did you? I guess we've kind of started at current time. I'll take it back to the beginning. How did you find yourself? How did you get into these kind of roles?
Oh,
Your career, Lawrence Shelton's career. How did we start?
the Lawrence Shelton career. That's quite a fun one. So I started out at university. My dad is a professor at University of Witwatersrand in South Africa, and he's been there, I don't know, 4 or 5 decades now. And he said, "Listen, you need to come and study." So I picked chartered accounting.
As you do.
As you do, right? Oh, I thought I'm going to rich. I'm going to do this.
Mhm.
I showed up the first day. I thought this was tremendously dull.
Yeah.
Right. And then I got some job experience in that space and thought, I'm not sure I can do this the rest of my life. I remember sitting in a very dusty filing room with paper receipts,
Mhm.
trying to reconcile some accounts that we had on the table and going, no, mate, this is not
Yeah.
for me, right?
It
So
sounds like a nightmare.
off we went, and at the same time we were doing that, I picked up marketing as a subject at university, and that's where my career really took off. And I was like, nah, this is much more interesting than anything else we've done so far, because of the diversity in it, and the ability to work across multiple sectors, work across different businesses,
Mhm.
everything from consumer packaged goods all the way to services, and going, nah, that's the right one. So post university, I got picked up as a graduate in the marketing department for South African breweries,
Cool.
and I spent a decade at South African breweries working across multiple brands. Ended up as the head of digital
Mhm.
for South Africa, looking into Africa. I just had a wonderful career there
Mhm.
within the marketing space.
Mhm.
Um, Huge budgets, as you can imagine,
Yeah,
to spend on
obviously.
marketing. Right?
Yeah.
And we're talking global impacts, we're talking international brands, we're talking local hero brands, and that was fantastic. But after a decade of that, you're kind of going, I've done a lot now. Now we've got to go do
Yeah.
something else. So
Is there a, I mean, I'm not, are there any South African, not to go completely off to completely derail this right from the beginning. Are there any South African like big label beers that are imported in Australia?
Are not imported, no. But
Okay.
it depends on what you classify as a South African brand because South African breweries bought some Australian breweries,
Ah, interesting.
and it's actually held under the international brand AB InBev now. So
Okay.
there's the world is very diverse, and it depends
Yeah.
on how you look at it.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry to interrupt,
Mm.
please.
Ah, no, that's okay. Yeah, post that. So then I moved to Australia
Hmm.
and picked up a great starting job at the military shop operated by BrandNet,
Hmm.
focusing on military history products, but not
Hmm.
only that, looking at how do we help service RSLs in fundraising. And
Mm.
that sort of spurred my career in a very different path,
Hmm.
which was very exciting at the time. And I really enjoyed my time there and sort of went from there into a communications, a very heavily strategic communications role
Hmm.
at another company called Content Group,
Hmm.
working specifically with government. Ended up in the association through a progression of changes and options and some exciting things that happened in my life,
Hmm.
and ended up here. And I've been at the association for a while now. So
Cool.
that's the gist of the career. So
That's
spanning a couple of continents and a few different roles.
nice. I've got so many South African friends. I've never actually been though. But I have to go and visit at some stage. It sounds like an amazing place.
There's a lot to offer in South
Yeah.
Africa. Yeah.
Yeah. I need to go. You kind of touched on something there. You talked about communication strategy, and I'm wondering, like, can you break that down for me? Like, what does a communication strategy look like? How do you know go from the ideation to the rolling out of this strategy? What does that look like?
Sure. So it's communication strategy is taken on a different guise according to the roles I've been in, right? So
Hmm.
when you're looking at consumer packaged goods, we're looking at beer. It's a very different strategic communication objective when you're
Hmm.
in that space, right? So we spend a lot of time dealing with human insights,
Hmm.
a lot of thoughts about the rationale behind why people purchase,
Hmm.
was the intent, looking at the occasion of consumption, and you've got to take all those multiple components and wrap it up into a strategy. So you actually got to put it down on paper and say, how do we take all this information and turn it into something usable that we can actually sell a product with?
Hmm.
And how does it translate? So if you're looking at the consumption occasion, you're going, okay, it's usually in groups of five or more. There's usually buckets of ice.
Hmm.
There's usually something on the TV, and they're usually cooking meat on an open fire. And I'm
Hmm.
being very top level here for you.
Sure.
How do you take that information and turn it into something that's usable from a product perspective? All right. Well, we know, for instance, that when you put beer in ice, the labels come off.
Hmm.
So you put on waterproof labels, you put
Hmm.
on plastic labels, so that
Hmm.
when it gets wet, you don't lose the product essence.
Hmm.
You make it easy to open, so you got a screw off lid. So all those little things
Mm.
start to morph into a communication strategy.
Hmm.
Because once you've got that product benefits set up, you can then start to talk about it, right? And you can
Is
start to communicate with it.
is that kind of that sort of just even just the product of a beer and getting it wet and all that stuff, all that stuff is kind of is that sort of that info that you've got about labels coming off it needs to be easy to open, all this stuff. It could be. It almost sounds quite anecdotal, but like, are you getting this from? Is this market research in action taking place? And you say to people, "What do or don't you like about a product?" And they're saying, "When it gets wet, the label comes off." Or is it something that just you as happy accidents to have found this out?
No, this is hours and hours and hours of research that goes into these conversations,
Mm.
specifically in the packaged goods space, right?
Hmm.
Because how consumers use your product is vitally important to understand the consumption ritual. And the
Hmm.
consumption ritual, the insight that goes into that turns into a strategy about how you talk about it. So we spend hours and hours and hours observing, looking, testing,
Hmm.
retesting everything from flavor concepts through to packaging concepts through to secondary packaging concepts to understand the consumer's use of
Hmm.
the product in their everyday life to make
Hmm.
it easier for them to use. Because to be honest, if you pick up a product and it's difficult to use, you're not going to pick it up again.
Mm.
Mm.
Totally. It's how does it so that kind of strategy for beer, how is it? in a space like with APGA, how I mean, they sound like worlds apart. What one is moving, you know, all sorts of things through pipes across the country. The other is putting beer in people's hands. How different is a strategy, a comms strategy look like between those two different giants?
Uh, Brilliant question. Again, when I say my career diverged, this is the one component that stayed quite close. Because when you look
Just
at
if I could interrupt real quick, could you move? Yeah, please, thank you. A
a
little
bit,
bit closer. Yeah, that was great. You just sounded
cool.
much quieter for a second.
So it's a great question. One of the things I mentioned, my career diverged quite dramatically from moving from packaged goods into service delivery.
Hmm.
But one thing that stays the same is the community. Right? So it doesn't matter what you're selling or how you're selling it. There's a community of people that surround themselves within that space and start to identify with it.
Hmm.
So from a beer perspective, it's the beer you drink creates a community of like-minded beer drinkers.
Like almost
Whereas
like a brand loyalty kind of.
similar to brand loyalty, but also just it's the emotional connection to the opportunity to consume in a setting.
Hmm.
Um, Whereas in the service space where I'm now, the community is around the service provided and how do we enhance it. So while the products are very different, the community that surrounds the products is very similar in terms
Hmm.
of how people get invested in what they are doing and how they are doing it, in what they are consuming and how they're consuming it.
Hmm.
And that goes from everything from how do you drink a beer to how do you develop a research project that looks at how pipelines are going to affect the future of the energy sector.
Hmm.
So it's about the vested interest of the human behind all of these things that bring it together. And that's the big part about behind the strategy is how do you tap into the human connection
Hmm.
across anything you're doing in a marketing space that allows you to have these conversations, that allows you to talk to these people, allows you to demonstrate the value of the service offering of the product that you have.
Mm. Sorry. I'm just curious to know how the whole thing works because the APGA it's national, right? I mean they are the people when it comes to moving these things. So how do you what kind of a campaign might you need to strategize and put forward in that space? Because it's very different in the sense that you know I'm not going to see an APGA me just everyday guy. I'm not going to see APGA. I'm not going to see an ad for them necessarily. I'm not going to see they're never going to see them on the side of a bus or anything like that. So kind of when you're having to communicate, who are you having to appeal to?
I'll take you through it. So as a member of the public, you will never see the advertising component of APGA
Hmm.
because the association is not a public facing entity.
Hmm.
What you'll see is the outcome of the work we've done behind the scenes for the last 5, 10 years.
Right.
Right. So that's what the public sees, and that comes through in public discourse, it comes through in policy, comes through in advocacy, comes through in the projects that are put in place to deliver the energy that's required for the end user.
Hmm.
Where the communication comes in is how do we communicate with the industry?
Hmm.
And industry is everybody involved through the transition of natural gas and biogas and renewable gas through pipelines.
Right.
And it's not just multiple other things as well, water, slurry,
Sure.
everything under the sun. Anything that goes through a pipe, I'll put it through a pipe, I promise you. What we do is we communicate directly with the industry,
Hmm.
and the industry um, it doesn't necessarily need a marketing campaign. It
Hmm.
doesn't need a traditional. We're going to throw a benefit at you. You're going to buy because of the benefit. We're going to consume.
Hmm.
What we do differently as an association is we bring the industry together
Hmm.
in a space, almost a safe space, if you want to call it that,
Sure.
to have discussions about the future of the industry and how we need to progress as an industry. And we take the onus on to progress the industry that way. So it's not one single industry pushing it in one direction. It's us as an industry having a conversation together that
Mm.
allows us to push that out.
So that looks like literally all the parties involved in a single space and talking about, this is what we want to happen, this is what we predict. I mean, it could be, and this is not a rabbit hole I want to go down too much, but I mean, what does what do these conversations look like? What I mean for APGA, what does the future look like?
That as much as you may not want to go down this rabbit hole, it is a beautiful question because what does
Mm,
it look like, right? When you're sitting as an industry association and you have a room full of people and they're all from different aspects of the industry and they all offer a different service and they all try to operate. So we got mom and pop
hmm
operated businesses been around for 25 years. We've got uh, stock exchange listed companies have been working and they've got shareholders and all that. How do you put them in a room and have a conversation? Well,
mm,
the easiest one we can say is safety.
hmm
Right? You can't operate in an industry that's not safe.
mm,
So we've got a committee that's dedicated to talking about safety issues. And that committee is run regularly. Conversation is shared. We talk about things like near misses, and people come to that committee and come to that forum openly
hmm
and talk about the things that they've had to experience and they've gone through. And that gives us a much deeper understanding of the industry requirements
hmm
because those people are so willing to invest their time and effort into sharing what you normally wouldn't share.
mm,
Uh, and we leave that conversation with a deeper understanding of what we need to do to enhance the safety in the industry,
hmm
which then translates into policy, which translates into research, which translates into multiple different things. But
hmm
the value is that one or two bits of conversation that you're allowed to have because the industry association is there facilitating that conversation. Because you never have a mom and pop store show up at a JSC or a stock exchange listed company going, I want to talk about safety. I feel
mm,
unsafe in a workspace, or
hmm
it's difficult to put this pipe in that you've suggested we do. But when you do it as an industry forum and you've got loads of people around the room that have been doing this 20 years, they're going, we get it, we understand. Let's look at this more closely. Let's have a conversation about this. How does it translate to policy? How does it translate into how we even award work as a tender perspective? Because we need to be sure that our workers are safe in the space.
mm.
And that's the beauty of the industry. And that is what makes associations so unique in their ability to deliver value into the market.
Hmm. Are you finding that this kind of, it seems like, with all the, with, it seems like there's such, huge projects nationally. There's, we're talking like, you mentioned, tenders being awarded. Those must cost billions of dollars. Like all this stuff that's happening. Do you find when you really boil down to it, it's people communicating essentially underneath all of this?
Yes, underneath everything we do, it's about how do we talk to one another and how do we make sure that we have the right information at the right time.
Mm, interesting.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you're doing, what you're working on, how you're working on it, how you're operating it. You got to have the communication as the bedrock of what you're doing. Otherwise, everything gets missed, right? And I'm not just talking from a marketing perspective. I'm talking from an industry perspective. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you found that I mean, I keep thinking of so many things I want to ask you, and I've had a very strong coffee, and I'm just trying to I'm trying to put them all in one succinct place. But you touched on marketing, and how do you think your background in marketing has that affected how you work today? Like,
Yes.
what lessons
Yeah.
have you taken from marketing that you now apply to your role in comms?
So a big thing, and this is a big folly of marketing and individuals is they don't listen
Hmm.
before they speak.
Right.
Um, and what I want to mean by that is that when I took the role, I spent 6 months trying to understand what was required of the role because there was such a transition in my career to move from a packaged goods to a service industry.
Mm,
And through that time, you work out what you have to listen to people to find out what they're saying, what's actually important to them.
hmm
Because the mistake we make is we walk into a role and we go, all right, I'm going to do this. We're going to have this webinars. We're going to do this marketing campaign. We're going to have this artwork. And you throw it at potential people, right? You just throw it out there
Sure.
and you go, oh, we'll just throw it out there and see what works.
Hmm.
If you take the time to understand what's coming into you first, it makes the whole process much simpler, much faster, much easier.
Mm,
And there's a lot of things that you don't have to then go and do that create clutter in your space
mm,
because you had the opportunity to listen to what in my case, what the members actually want out of
Mm.
you. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You and I made a joke earlier about a very technical issue of pipelines.
Mm.
But when you're talking to a member base that deals with this on a day-to-day basis, and their entire job is around this, putting a technical webinar together which
Mm.
discusses the micro detail and fundamentals of these issues is
Mm.
exactly what they want.
Mm.
They don't want a big marketing campaign shouting about
Mm.
prizes and if you do this and if you answer this survey, they don't want that because they are so hyper focused on this small component of pipelines, but they are so keen to come to a webinar. They want
Mm.
to talk about those micro issues because that's what they deal with on a day-to-day basis.
Eh, Sorry, no, go on.
I was going to say, and that's the big transition out of huge brands that are just marketing crazy, throwing
Mm.
campaigns out there all the time, is that when you get into a service industry, listening to your members, listening to your the people in your community is vitally important to understand what they're actually looking for from a service perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Because the way you add value there is not by putting another product benefit on the table, it's by understanding how they use the product and giving them the opportunity to use the product better to service their requirements and their needs.
Mm. You mentioned webinars. I think that's a really interesting point. What content are you finding delivering your members as the kind of is moving the needle the most? So what's getting the most traction, do you find? Because it seems like your members, your audience, your user base, they want to get into they are happy to really dig deep on detail. Um, like you said, they can hyperfixate on, a component of what it is you're offering. What what kinds of content do you find are the most successful in communicating your message?
It's a, you asked a question, but it's actually taken a bit of a route to get to the answer.
Sure.
So when I started, I suggested producing content that was very general and very feel good
Mm-hmm.
content about the industry, about what we're doing. That content didn't take off.
Mm. Well,
Again,
and
mostly.
what did that look like? In
So I had the CEO stand up in front of the camera and talk about what CEOs talk about the total market engagement, what the board is up to,
mm-hmm.
what are we looking at in the future.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit abstract in its concept, and we were
Sure.
just we were workshopping through what might be helpful.
And that didn't land with audiences.
It landed with a small percentage of the audience because when you look at the total audience, looking at a very small percentage that's worried
Mm-hmm.
about the future.
Right.
A large percentage of my audience is worried about what they have to do on the pipelines tomorrow, or how they're going to manage safety issues next
Right.
Wednesday, or how they're going to worry about risk calculations. So there's
Mm-hmm.
a huge amount of the members, and that's again looking at the difference between marketing to the organization and marketing to the individual within that organization that actually has the job to do.
Mm-hmm.
And we found that if we transition, so we ran multiple series of web content. So we ran the CEO having conversations. We ran abstract conversations around looking at career growth, potentially looking at some diversity conversations, and they all landed with certain audiences. But
Mm-hmm.
the one that's landed the most is the ones about technical webinars, where I
Interesting.
get an industry expert to come in and share his knowledge about the subject,
Mm-hmm.
right down to the very, very fine details about it. And you're dealing with people that have worked in the industry a very long time. So they've got a general sense of what's happening. So by putting the micro detail in front of them, you are enhancing the value that you're offering to them through that content,
Mm.
and that people will come to it.
So this is these webinars. We're talking long
Long form
form.
content. Yeah, the
Yeah.
webinar is generally an hour,
Right.
45 minutes presentation, 15 minutes plus of question and answer.
Right.
Sometimes even longer than that, depending on the subject matter
Mm.
and depending on the expert. So again, the worst thing is to get someone in that thinks they know how to do a webinar, and then they get on there and they don't talk very well. And
Mm.
the presentation is, oh, sorry, I just got to go back a few slides and talk about this again.
Yeah.
So you got to find the right experts, and luckily enough, and very fortunate, I've got a pool of experts that can talk on multiple subjects very well,
Right.
and that's proven to be one of our most highly engaged pieces of content is the technical webinars,
Mm-hmm.
specifically about future-based technology.
Mm.
What's coming up? How do I transition from what I'm doing now to what's happening next? And that's important.
And what's the just? I mean, from a scheduling perspective, what's what's the appetite for these things? How often can you do them? Or because I mean the webinars, it's like it's an event, right? It's but how often can you use these things before people go, okay, I've had enough webinars for one
Yeah.
month, thanks.
Yes. Again, the the timing on these is once a month, sometimes twice a month, depending on the time of the year and
Hmm.
the subject. So if it's a very critical topic,
Hmm.
like something's come up and we need to talk about it, we'll just slot in another webinar. I try and give 6 to 8 weeks to advertise just to make sure we can get the room full.
Hmm.
Um, and this is maybe a nuance for my fellow association communicators, is that people are not looking at your emails every day.
Mm.
Right? You got to give them enough time to get to your content.
Mm.
So you can't send it out today and say the webinar's tomorrow and be
Hmm.
upset when nobody shows up. You
Mm.
got to give them 6, 8, 10 weeks to accumulate an audience because they'll get to it when they get to it, right? Because you're not top priority in their list of things to do.
Yeah.
So
How do you find, is there a way? I mean, I guess you could argue it's not. Uh, I mean, how are you finding competing with? I mean, just you say people will get to it when they get to it. How do you kind of manage that? It just seems because people are fickle. You know, trying to get people's attention in any aspect is difficult, particularly if it's something that they don't necessarily want to do, that isn't their idea. How do you manage that? How do you know conduct people's attention?
yes. So how I view it is the industry association is not a all day, every day, want to be engaged component.
Hmm.
It's a at work component. So I only talk to people on work. I talk to people during work hours, and we engage during the working space because it's related to your job. That's why an industry association exists.
Hmm.
So I'm not competing outside of that space. When I'm competing in that space, in that 9 to 5 period, I'm reducing the amount of content I send you so that when you do get content, it's the right content you want to engage with.
Hmm.
Right? So what I mean by that is I don't send everything to everybody.
Right.
I send the right things to the right people based on the interest, based on where they've engaged previously, based on their title, to make sure they're getting the most relevant communication from me that we can possibly send them.
So you're so this is kind of a as you get a contact you know a customer whatever you're kind of filtering them down into more and more precise baskets essentially.
As much as we can,
Hmm.
because the value of my communication is based on what you take out of it, not what I think the value is. I'd
Right.
love to send you every email about every event and see if I can just get another ticket, but that's
Mm.
not valuable to you as a member.
Mm.
So we have the broad-based comms, which is here's all our events, but only send one.
Hmm.
And then all the other information is then segmented down to a point where it's technical webinars about very specific topics are going to very specific groups of people I know are going to be interested in those topics.
Right.
Because if you send that to HR, for instance, it's just going to go as an unread email and they may not read the next one because they don't think the relevance is there for them when you send communication.
Mm.
So hyper targeting as much as you can is what I've found to be very helpful in getting the right message to the right people at the right time.
Right. Is
Right.
that how? I mean, is this when we're talking about open rates, ticket sales, that kind of thing? How are you measuring success with your audience? How do you, you know, at the end of the day, you go, that was a good day, we nailed that. What does that look like?
So your metrics all there, and that's everything that your CRM will give you. It's your open rate, it's your click-through rate, all that's great, right? But those are indicative measures, but there's not value measures.
Mm.
How I look at the value is how much time are your members putting into the association? And what does that mean? What does that look like? So what it means is that we run multiple committees, we run
Mm.
multiple events, we run a huge convention once a year.
Hmm.
How many people are coming to that? How many hours are they dedicating to the industry through the association? So a committee, for instance, we've got a pipeline committee that looks after pipelines.
Hmm.
They meet regularly and they invest a lot of time. They have a seminar once a year where they come and bring issues and table issues and discuss it. That is a tremendous amount of invested time. So they have to be seeing value in doing that to invest that amount of time
Right.
in the association, in the industry.
Hmm.
So that for me is the more important metric. So Click-through rates, open rates, that's all great to understand how your comms is working.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're looking at where the value is, it's how much time are they investing in the association? And as a result of that, what is the value that it's pushing back into the industry?
Mm-hmm.
And that's beautiful pieces of work. So we've got a code of environmental practice. This takes months
Coded
of
environmental practice.
code of environmental practice.
Code of it. Right.
How do you operate within the environment in which you work to
Mm-hmm.
make sure that you are not having a detrimental impact? So when
Right.
we put a pipeline in the ground, we've got guys walking around making sure that we're not having an impact on any of the species that live down that corridor.
Mm-hmm.
And there's environmental impact assessments. It's how do you put pipes through water to make sure that it's all good,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and and that's a tremendous amount of time from the industry goes into creating that code to
Mm-hmm.
make sure that the industry benefits from the expertise about that space. So that's where I found. Then that's where we measure the most value for the association.
Right. I mean, you're quite senior now in your role, and you've been doing it for a number of years. For smaller organizations or businesses that don't have, perhaps your seniority or even just, your scale, your size of team, what are, and you sort of touched on this a little earlier, but what are some principles that they can borrow that doesn't seem to change? That what's the uniform thing across this industry that no matter your size, this is how you engage members.
I think no matter your size, I think you need to stop throwing communication at people and hoping it sticks.
Right.
So,
And by
but
that you mean just throwing a message and being like that'll just land.
so yes. So when we think about engagement, right, from at the very top level, it's how do you talk to people?
Mm-hmm.
How do you solicit a response from your membership base? As an association, you can fall into the trap where you are talking at your members
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to your members. And the distinction there is when you're talking at your members, you are heavily reliant on one directional communication. So you're sort of throwing a message out there and going, "Oh, I hope that hits
Mm-hmm.
home."
Mm-hmm.
Great. When you're talking to your members, you're giving the opportunity for them to respond to you in that
Mm-hmm.
space. And when you run a small association, when you run an association that's heavily reliant on volunteer participation, when you run an association that's dealing with critical components, giving your members the opportunity to talk back to you, to feedback, and to have conversations, to bring up issues you hadn't thought about, it's
Mm-hmm.
vitally important. So how we do that is through multiple events throughout the year, and those events put the right people in the right room to have those conversations. Right? And we've got networking events, we've got dinners, and we've got seminars and workshops that put the right people in the right space to have those conversations. And we put secretariat members in that space as well for them to understand and hear the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So the next steps doesn't come from us; it comes from a group of individuals that are much better at understanding the problem than we are, and that gives us the opportunity to then workshop it, talk about it, go back and forth. So it doesn't matter what size of association you are, you need to give your members the opportunity to talk back to you, to feedback the value that you wouldn't be able to get otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, and that's the big distinction. So, how we put that into play and how I put that into play at the association is I stopped sending emails. Right. We consolidated all the communication and pulled it into very specific communication channels. So we've got an event and we've got a monthly update. Right.
Right.
And the events used to be like every time there was a new event, you'd send out multiple communications and try to get people to come. And it just clicked as you box with multiple
Mm-hmm.
talking at you pieces of content. What we do now is we consolidate all that and we have one communication that talks about the events. But then when we are at the events, we talk to people about what's coming up and you demonstrate the value of the next event through
Mm-hmm.
conversation as opposed to throwing multiple emails at them. Bum, 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 bum. So what we did this year is we actually enhanced the audio visuals that we had at our dinners, right? Because there's a lot of time as you move through the evening between guest speakers, between the intros, while you're finishing your dessert, for people to have just a quiet moment and just look at the screen. We're going, okay, well, this is a great opportunity to talk about what's coming up next. So we start putting QR codes and visuals on the screen during the event.
Mm-hmm.
and it just rotates on a loop throughout the evening.
Sure.
And the feedback I got on that was, this is great.
Yeah.
Why? Oh, because I didn't get that email, but I've seen it now at the event. Or I didn't pay enough attention to this, but there's a QR code. You click the QR code, you can suddenly be part of that,
Mm-hmm.
whatever's happening on screen, and that's great.
Mm.
To the point where I got some feedback that when the people saw each other on the screen, it would be like became like a game, right? It's like
Right.
they try to spot you because the content that I put on screen is the content I've had at previous events,
Right.
and it's the members.
Ah,
The member
right.
sees themselves on screen and go, "Oh, look, it's me! Oh, it's
Yeah.
you! Oh,
Yeah.
there's Tom from
Mm-hmm.
last time he was here," sort of thing. It
Mm-hmm.
creates a lot of excitement,
Mm.
right? And that's the value of talking about putting the right communication in the right space and not just throwing it at people.
Have you found? I mean, I want to talk about how we're touching on how you promote these events and how they kind of how they work. But I'm wondering as well, have there been any engagement tools that you might have tried and just completely flopped, and you're like, that was a disaster. That did that did not work how we wanted it to.
Not at the association. So
Okay.
I've had multiple failed communications components in a previous life. So,
Mm-hmm.
but the association is quite streamlined, and we rely very heavily on our database of people on through email and LinkedIn. Because again, it's a work industry. It's not a so you're not going to sit here on a Sunday night and go, oh, I wonder what the APGA is up to, and we go and find their
Mm.
social pages. That's not what it's about.
Sure.
Whereas in the previous life, we tried the getting customers, and this is when I was working at breweries, to get customers to produce content to enter a competition through a very challenging entry process
Right.
of you have to scan the QR code, open up the web app, then you have to interact at that point, give them sort of like 5 minutes to do the thing, and then hopefully that results in a decent entry. And you're going, that really failed badly
Mm.
because the moment they hit submit, it was open up their camera and they'd have to do something. So we
Right.
got a lot of entries of people sort of staring at their camera, going, "Wait, is it live?
Yeah.
What's
Right.
going on?"
Right.
So a very difficult user interface, very difficult entry mechanic. So those sort of things failed
Sure.
dismally, just because people didn't know how to operate it. So
Mm.
and that was new technology back, I'm talking like 15, 20 years ago now.
Mm.
Um, but the learning from that is that allow people to engage in the platforms that they're used to engaging in a way that they're used to doing it, to make sure that it's easy for your member user to
Mm.
engage with you. Don't give them anything too difficult to do.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just super challenging for everybody.
Yeah. As far as these live events go, what are you find like we've talked a little bit about how you set them up, but what are you doing anything kind of post event to get the most out of this? I think a lot of people might start an event, here's the message, got it, good, and they kind of let it dwindle. How can people capitalize on these events in the afterwards?
So yeah, we do. So we do things pre and post event. We do the main event is the main event. Because we've set these events up and we've got a calendar of events and people know it's happening, right? We're in a bit of a beneficial position that people know you'll have a dinner and a networking in your city at some stage throughout the year.
Mm-hmm.
Tick, great. That's longevity of this application. What's new and different is how do we engage across multiple areas? So when we look at the events, we've got the event sponsors.
Mm-hmm.
So these are the members that have taken the time and energy to say, yes, we'd like to be part of this event. We'd like to do something at the event. We'd like to brand something at the event, whatever that would be. We've got the members who come to the event and why they're coming there. Well, they're coming there to network, talk, and listen.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got the speakers. So what we've done as an evolution over the last few years, we've tried to get very good quality speakers from influential positions.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking motivational speakers. I'm talking people with deep industry knowledge that bring
Experts in the
insight
room.
into to the room. Right? These are who we want to listen to, and this is a work thing. I'm not going there for a motivational speaker. I can do that anyway. Look it up on YouTube. I'm
Yeah.
going to listen to the CEO of this company that works in this industry that's just invested another multi-million dollars in assets.
Hmm.
Great, that's what I want to talk to. From a sponsor's perspective, they need we give them the opportunity to pull value out of the event. So bring something to the event, talk at the event, um, promote the event, be part of the community that's in the event, right? And trying to give them as much value as possible. And this is a very challenging position
Hmm.
because you don't want to talk, you don't want the event to turn into a sales pitch,
Yeah.
right? So there's a very fine line between I'm a sponsor and I'm there trying to sell you something. So
Mm.
you got to manage that. And then from a member's perspective, they're obviously there because they want to engage with the network of people coming to the event. So we try and make sure that the people in the room have the time to talk to one another.
Right.
So it's not 9 to 5 and every minute of every event is filled with activity. It's go and talk to each other.
Mm.
Spend as much time as you want. We found this beautiful space. It's nice and open.
Mm.
There's drinks and snacks. Have the time you want to have, and invite your customers to come with you to the event. So we offer member and non-member tickets, so you
Mm.
can come with to the event and you can bring people to the event,
Interesting.
um, which allows you then to engage in the industry. Even though you're not a member, you still get to come to a dinner, and you still get to meet the people in the industry. You still get to engage with your customers,
Mm.
and it gives people coming to the event the opportunity to pull value out of it. It's not just the speaker, but it's the connection I've made, or it's the opportunity to go to a different city and meet with a supplier at a dinner
Hmm.
hosted, that sort of thing. So multiple factors across this that allow us to build the most value into the time that you're going to spend with the industry and with the association.
Mm. Are you finding that even in such a, I mean, everything is digital now. People are just glued to some kind of screen most hours of the day. Is anything competing with this kind of in-person event? Is there anything that you think even comes close as far as communicating? That you guys have seen, at least, in your experience, you go, you know what, like, look, we haven't been able to do a dinner, but thank goodness we can do this instead. Is anything coming close?
It's funny because we tried hybrid event strategy coming off
Mm.
the back of staying at home forever,
Mm.
um, and the further away we got from COVID, the less
Mm.
people were interested in hybrid. They wanted to come to the event. They wanted to do the personal
Mm-hmm.
thing. So we actually saw our digital tickets drop and our in-person tickets come up. So it's difficult to say that there's anything that competes with the one-on-one connection, the ability to put people in a room and have a conversation.
Mm.
And I think that is because there's just a huge amount of content that's available online on
Mm.
demand, right? And I take my technical webinars and I turn them on to on-demand content, so you don't have to come to the webinar. You can
Mm.
go and find the video in the library as a member later and watch it whenever you want to,
Mm.
and that's great. But the events itself and the value that our members get out of the events because they see friends they haven't spoken to or see people that they haven't connected with or suddenly having a conversation with someone that's just coming from out of state or
Mm.
just joined the industries and they're there for the first time.
Mm.
That sort of connection is where the value is. And you don't get that in a digital space because in a digital space, it's unfortunately an expert on screen shouting at an empty room,
Yeah.
because you don't even get to see each other on a webinar on most occasions.
Mm.
So it's a very one-on-one engagement. It's very linear in its ability, but when you're at an event, it's a multifaceted opportunity to engage with multiple people over an extended period of time, and that's
Mm.
the value of it. And that's how the in-person component is so vital to associations. And associations that don't have events should be thinking about how do I put all my industry people in one room
Mm.
and just let them talk to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about like how different things looked. I mean, COVID was 5 years ago now. I mean, and that shift from digital seems to be dropping compared to, people's enthusiasm. They would rather go to a real life event. What do you predict, just based off kind of what you've seen? What does your industry look like? And I'm not talking APGA. I'm talking, the role of, communications. How do you think that shifts in the next 5 to 10 years?
I'm not sure how it shifts the next 5 to 10 years. To be fair, I
Fair
can
enough.
tell you from an association perspective how I think it's going to go,
Hmm.
and how that's going to be affected. So as we get more and more professionals in associations, the competitiveness is increasing. So
Hmm.
when you think, even through events, when you think about what events you can go to in a year as a professional, we are competing with multiple other industry associations that are got completely nothing to do with our industry, but
Mm.
people are joined to those industry associations. Well, we got business associations, professional associations, that sort of thing. So we need to be competitive in that space so that when people do decide to dedicate time to their career in their industry, that they come to us as the first choice.
Mm.
So that's a competitive nature. The
And so
second
we
thing,
can just on that, what does being competitive look like?
it's again, how much value are you getting out of coming to one of these things, right? So we often say that you're not going to come to one of our events and see a motivational speaker at a dinner,
Hmm.
because that isn't that you can get at any industry association. When you
Yeah.
come to an APGA dinner, we're going to try and find a speaker that's designed for our industry, that gives you insight into what's coming up, how to think about the industry going forward. And that's the
Hmm.
value that you get out of it. So
Mm.
to be unique in what we offer at the event is where we have a competitive edge
Mm.
over other associations, which are very general.
Mm.
Right? So drilling down, being very specific, having webinars that are on highly specific topics that experts need to come to understand what they need to go do to do at work tomorrow in
Mm.
this space. But also the cost of events is going up dramatically, and we're finding that just to host and just to find a venue that's people want to come to
Mm.
the cost is increasing because
Right.
there's such a high demand, and more people want to have these events. More and more people are having paid events. More and more people want to get the industry into a room or whatever it might be. So
Mm.
the value that you pay for a ticket to come to the event has to be there.
Hmm.
So we've got to find the right venue, we've got to find the right caterer, you've got to find the right entertainment, you've got to find the right speaker, you've got to find the right opportunities
Hmm.
to get people in the room. Uh, and that's where the competitive nature of the eventing comes in.
Mm.
Because we're not just competing as an association with other associations, we're also competing in a much broader landscape
Mm.
when we're purchasing an event space. Because
Mm.
you're competing with weddings, for instance.
Mm.
People will book out entire venues for 400, 500 plus wedding, and you're going, shit, can't compete with that. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's,
Yeah.
um, because we don't want, we're trying to keep the costs down for members
Mm.
to increase the value proposition. Because you don't want to charge people a huge amount of money just to come and do work. You want to
Mm.
charge them as little as possible to come and get the most value out of your event as possible.
Mm.
Because being a non-profit as an association, our aim is not to increase our bank balance. The aim is to make sure that we are putting as much money back into the industry to create
Mm.
as much value as possible for our members. And that's, and that's, we're accountable for that as an
Yeah.
association. So being competitive in that space is very challenging
Yeah.
when you're competing with profitable
Mm.
organizations that are willing to pay more money for an event space to make more money out of that space. Yeah,
Mm.
so it's just the dichotomy of the situations.
Mm.
How do you compete both within industry and outside industry is for something as simple as an event space?
Mm. I mean, so the future of what you're doing, I mean, like the it continues to look like it's live events. Obviously, that is a staple of what you guys are doing and communicating with your audience. Is there anything that you can see yourselves leaning into more? Anything that I mean, how much wiggle room does Lawrence Shelton have in his role to try new things and to bring new stuff in, to bring new ideas to the table? Looking into the future of, of your role.
Mm. So that's actually a fun question, right? So the CNO, our CEO and I have a very good relationship. And the wiggle room is there because he understands that we need to be competitive and we need to
Mm.
add value back to members.
Hmm.
Um, so we have the opportunity to try and do different things within the association space.
Hmm.
For us, what it looks like is more of the same short term
Hmm.
as we start to understand and unpack what the industry is going to look like. So how do you split your time between technical issues and advocacy issues?
Mm.
And I'll take you back to when we had the federal elections.
Hmm.
The position shifted more to advocacy to help people understand what the impact of the election is going to have on the industry. But
Mhm.
now that that's passed, it's shifting back into the technical components, which is how do we invest the money that you do have, limited though it may be, into the industry
Mhm.
and making sure the projects run efficiently and you've got the right workforce.
Mhm.
You've considered all the diversity and equity investments and where you need to go with that. So it shifts throughout the cycles.
Mhm.
And what that means is we have the opportunity to try different content mediums as we go through this. So technical webinars will be a staple. But one thing we introduced was mini seminars. So as you come to a networking event, which is no longer just networking, we now plug in a 20-minute presentation before the networking event to
Mhm.
get you in the room to understand, okay, well, this is an issue we've dealt with. It was a
Mhm.
real world issue. Here's the people that worked on the project. They're
Mhm.
going to tell you about what happened. And everybody goes, oh, that was pretty cool. Cool.
Right.
Go and network, go talk to each other.
Right.
So it's just adding those little incremental bits of value to every
Mm.
single component that we have. And
Mhm.
that's important. So more of that's going to go forward, and we're going to experiment with these value injections in the staple components of what we do.
Mhm.
And I'll give you an example. We run a convention once a year, so it's
Yep.
a 4-day convention.
Is that
It's
coming
got
up soon?
yeah, so that's in October,
Yep.
and a huge chunk of that is the plenary sessions where people come and talk about real world examples and give industry expertise back to an audience.
Mhm.
So, but linked to that, we've got all the social networking events. And as from year to year to year, what we're trying to do is enhance the value of those networking events by giving more people the opportunity to engage. So
Mm.
I'm sure you've been to a networking event where everybody sort of stands around and looks at each other because they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Right. So how do we as
Most of
an
them.
association? Exactly, right? It's very challenging. Just walk up to some stranger and go, hi, I'm whoever.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do is to help facilitate the engagement is actually to talk up front and
Mhm.
introduce a few people so you know people in the room.
Mhm.
We've got specifically for our young, as we call it the YPF, it's a Young Pipeliners Forum,
Mhm.
we've actually invited them to come to the event for free to help them meet people at the early stages of their career to keep them
Mm.
in the industry longer and to build their network faster.
Oh.
So those are the little bits of value that we're adding
Mhm.
into that rather large convention, which would be traditional convention if we didn't. Just you show up, listen, and leave.
Mhm.
Now we're saying, okay, well, you can show up, you can listen, come to the networking, meet people. The people that you talk to on a day-to-day basis are going to be there, but we're also going to inject all these early career people into the room as well. So you
Mm.
can meet the new entrants into the industry, but they have then the opportunity to meet the experts that have been around for 20 years that they can ask engineering questions, career questions, mental
Mhm.
health questions,
Mhm.
uh, you know, anything they just don't know.
Yeah.
Right? And that's where the value comes in, and that's where that personal connection comes in, and that's what we're trying to build on year as we go through these things. And some of it works, some of it doesn't. Right? You're
Sure.
never gonna, and it may work this year, and next year it sort of falls flat. And we've seen that happen where we're going, this is a great idea. You inject it with a lot of energy, people get involved, lots of people do it, and the next year it sort of falls off a cliff.
Mm.
And that's because it's one year you did it, it hit saturation.
Right.
And the next year it's not as exciting because it's old.
Mm.
And everybody that wanted to do it's already done it. And you go, okay, let's reassess this.
Yeah.
So then do we say, okay, and we did this with our one of the awards we were running, the Innovation Award. And it was great. It had like 2 or 3 years of large number of entries, people were engaged, and it sort of fell off a cliff.
Mhm.
So again, I went and I asked the question, I said, well, you entered like last year, why didn't you enter this year? Oh, no, because we don't have any innovation this year. Because
Mm.
the innovation cycle is longer than the award cycle. So if you award something once a year, but your innovation cycle is every 18 to 24 months,
Mm.
potentially longer in some industries, the limited amount of members you have
Yeah.
who have the opportunity to enter
Yeah.
just don't have anything to enter. So you go,
Yeah.
okay, cool. So we'll just extend that period. And so instead of the last 12 months, the last 24 to 36 months of
Mhm.
innovation, so that you just give the members the opportunity to grab assets that they've worked on. And
Yeah.
and we were going, oh God, this has fallen off a cliff. What happened?
Mhm.
Oh, it's just because the members haven't developed something in 12 months. But if you give
Mm.
them a longer period, it's loads of entries. This year we ran it. This year got a huge number of entries.
Does falling off a cliff, does that look like poor attendance? Does that look like just a disinterest, a general, a sullen mood in the room?
Yeah,
What does that look like?
it's just the number of entrants, or the number of engagements just drops off completely.
Mm.
So it
And
goes
a
from
successful event, because again, it's one thing to pack out a room, doesn't necessarily mean they had a good time. How do you measure that?
so we measured in a couple of ways. One is I sent out an email survey, which is just to sort of throw it out there and see if
Hmm.
anybody had concerns, right?
Hmm.
And the way I look at that is if you have taken the time to answer the survey, that means that either it was very good or very bad.
Hmm.
There's sort of nothing in the middle, right?
Yeah.
Because even myself, if everything was fine, I'm not going to answer a survey. I'm just going, okay, it was fine. I'm not worried about it. So we look at that as polarizing components of feedback. So it was either excellent and they want to tell us, or it was really bad, or someone had a problem and we need to go and fix it.
Hmm.
Luckily enough, most of them are sitting on it. It was pretty good. Thanks for letting us component at the moment. Then in the middle of that, we've got an engagement manager whose job is to actually engage and talk to
Hmm.
people, and
Hmm.
she will ask the question: how was the event? Did you come? Did you send new people? And we get that feedback through conversation.
Is it a face-to-face role or is it a phone call?
Her role is a face-to-face role, so she will either go and visit or call
Wow. Okay.
a lot of our members.
Yep.
This that's what she does, and she's incredibly good at it. Um, but that's what gives us the middle component of the conversation. So we've got the polarizing ends through the survey, we've got the feedback in the middle,
Hmm.
and then we've got the lag effect, which is how many people come to the next event.
Mm.
So you're then going, okay, in 2024 we had 180 people come to this networking. In 2025 we've got 150. What happened? Or
Mm.
we've got 200. Shit, we've got to book a bigger room.
Yep.
So those are so multiple components, and you can only do that over a longer period of time.
Mm.
Because if you look at event by event, you don't get the right level of feedback to understand what you need to do next.
Mm.
Whereas if you're looking, okay, what did we do in 2023, 2024, now 2025? What was the difference in the agenda? What was the difference in speaker? What was the difference in attendance?
Hmm.
Okay, cool. What's happening at that time? Sorry. One of our biggest members had a meeting at that time, and everybody went to that meeting instead of coming to your event.
Right.
So we dropped 20, 30 tickets. Going,
Yeah.
oh, okay. But
Interesting.
we can only get that through direct contact with the member
Mm-hmm.
saying, hey, why didn't you come? Oh, sorry, we were going to, but
Mm-hmm.
we had a 2-day workshop and
Mm.
we couldn't attend.
Mm.
So, and that's very helpful for small associations to understand. Right?
Mm.
The bigger you get and you've got 500 people coming, it's very difficult to phone all of them and ask them why they didn't come.
Yeah.
But that's really sort of how we measure event effectiveness as opposed to just attendance.
Mm. Mm. I mean, look, that's pretty much all I've got for you. What are you? But before we do wrap up, I'm just curious. So what are you excited about for the end of the year for your role? What are you excited about the future of your role? And and also kind of just on a personal level, what what kind of gets you excited about it?
Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah, future wise, there's plenty on the cards. I mean, we haven't even talked or looked at AI as an opportunity in the
I just
association space, right?
I did. I mean, we can
Okay.
go into AI if you want. It just seems like I just feel like I just assume now that people are tired of talking about AI. But if you're happy to dig in, please. How is that going to change
Um,
what it is
yeah,
that you're doing?
AI in its current form is both exciting and terrifying from an
Sure.
association perspective, right? Because everything you do on a platform takes away the personal connection.
Mm.
So you have to be very careful as an association that you are not removing the human from the conversation
Mm.
and missing the insight. Right. So that's the first
Mm-hmm.
thing. But the second thing is AI just allows you to do things a little bit faster, a little bit quicker, a little bit more professional.
Mm-hmm.
Small agencies with small budgets using AI is a huge opportunity for them to deliver more value in the market, right? And that's just touching it on a surface level, going, what could it potentially do? There's loads of stuff we could, and we probably need another podcast to get into
Yeah.
the detail of it and how it starts to affect things. But that's a very exciting component and a very terrifying component at the same time. And that's
Mm.
great because you got to get up tomorrow and think about it, and that's an exciting piece. But what's also exciting is how that's going to impact the platforms that we use on a day-to-day basis. So we all use
Mm.
CRMs, we all use databases.
Mm-hmm.
how do we use AI to do the things we can't do, which is mine for insight
Mm.
or mine for trends that you wouldn't necessarily have picked up. But if you've got a bunch of data and you stick it into AI and you go, cool, what does
Mm.
it spit out?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then you've got to take the human to go and look at it and say, is this meaningful or not?
Mm.
But so there's lots of opportunity there and a very exciting future. But what excites me about getting up tomorrow is the opportunity to engage with the members.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you deal with people, you get both interesting and exciting challenges on a regular basis, right?
Yeah.
And how do you solve those problems through communications is the next step. So
Mm.
whether it be, oh, we need a technical webinar on hydrogen in pipelines, great, or this website's not working. What are we doing? What do you mean it's not
Mm.
working? Oh,
Mm.
it's not that the website's not working. Is that the user understanding of how to use the website is not there. So how do you repurpose that? So these small challenges are exciting to deal with because it's problem solving on a regular basis, and that's fun for associations. Right?
Mm.
You have to problem solve for your membership to make sure they're getting the value out of it that they want. That's great.
Mm. Mm.
Um, but the future is, and I work in a very dynamic industry, work in the energy industry, and everybody talks about energy like the experts in it,
Mm.
and they understand. But the complexity of the industry is what's exciting. There's so
Mm.
many components, and you can go down one route and you can go down another route. And we have the opportunity to have a big effect on the country through the industry. And that's what's
Mm.
exciting about working in an association
Mm.
is the impact that you can have is just fundamental. Right? And whether that's you put the right expert in the room with another expert and they have a conversation, something sparks,
Mm-hmm.
or you talk about safety in a way that keeps people in the industry going home to their mom and going home to their kids and being
Mm.
part of that world. So
Mm.
it's there's just so many things that are linked in that space.
But I'm curious to know because the government announced, new energy targets just yesterday. Does that impact does that impact someone like APGA at all? Like, what does that look like for them?
Yeah, so anything the government says or does impacts us in some other way, whether it be
Sure.
through advocacy or through policy or through putting the right people in the right room to go and have the conversations to make sure people have the information available to make good decisions.
Mm.
And so, yes. Um, and that's why I say the energy space is very exciting
Yeah.
because there's so much happening in the transition. Um, and us as an association are there to support the industry supporting the transition.
Mm-hmm.
And we're very excited about the opportunity to do that, especially in
Mm-hmm.
the energy space. You're going, we want to go renewables? Great. We can
Mm-hmm.
put molecules through pipelines.
Mm.
We are not in any way advocating against it. We're going, yes, absolutely. Use the assets, use the stuff in the ground that we've spent millions of dollars on
Mm-hmm.
to help facilitate the transition.
Mm-hmm.
And those conversations are hugely exciting for an
Mm.
industry. To say, cool, we've got these assets. How do we use them to affect the transition? How do we support the transition? How do we build on what we have
Mm.
to get a better outcome?
Mm.
Uh,
That's interesting. So I'd
yeah,
assumed that they would be kind of, I mean, not exclusive, obviously, but it's cool to hear that it's not. It doesn't, because the country is the world is transitioning to different kinds of energy all the time,
absolutely.
and it's cool to hear that the future of energy and uh, the industry that you're in are not exclusive. Like they actually work together.
Ah, absolutely. The industry, and again, this is my personal view, is the industry is a buzz at the moment with the word transition,
Mm.
and the word transition means a lot for a lot of people.
Mm.
But the opportunity that the word transition has given us is massive. Right?
Mm.
So how do you take the assets you have? And we've done tons of research on this. How do you take them into renewable pipelines?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Pipelines that are putting renewable energy through,
Mm-hmm.
whether that be biomethane or green hydrogen, blue hydrogen, whatever you want to call it.
Mm.
Guys are spending a huge amount of time. They're so excited about the opportunity to do that.
Mm.
We've worked on the assets because the assets are there, they're in the ground.
Mm.
And it lessens the impact of the transition, but allows us to then transition faster or quicker.
Mm.
And that's great. And the energy around it is just palpable. And you can feel it. And a lot of the technical webinars we have now are on how do we transition the assets we have to
Mm.
be able to support the transition in the energy sector.
Mm.
right? And it's great. It's a very exciting time to be in the industry and in this, you know, traditional to non-traditional way of thinking about energy.
Mm. When you say assets, you do mean stuff like hydrogen. You mentioned green, blue hydrogen, or
Yeah.
what are we talking about when we say assets?
So when I talk about assets, I'm talking about the pipes in the ground that move
Gotcha.
molecules across the country, right? So
Right.
we've got huge transition pipelines that have been built for the last 20, 25, 30 years
Mm.
available to us, and they
Mm.
transport energy through
Mm.
molecules across the country. Um, and it's how do we utilize those assets?
Mm.
And
Right.
we had a wonderful change in policy where people can now get carbon credits for using renewable gas through the pipelines.
Right.
It's fantastic. It's a huge positive in the transition because now it's incentivized people to put renewable gas through the pipelines. And
Right.
we're going, great, all our pipelines are renewable gas ready. We can
Mm.
blend the gas in and push it through the pipelines.
Mm.
And the energy and the sector, the industry is very excited about this opportunity to be part of the transition, utilizing the assets that they've spent 25 years perfecting
Mm.
in the next step of the journey. Because as much as we want renewables to come in, you still have to invest the money to go and do the pipes we have in the ground are there, the assets we can utilize. And we're saying, guys, use the pipes.
Mm.
Understand that they are there for you.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be, there's no contentious issue about this. It's like we're just saying use the assets you have in the ground
Mm.
to help with the transition
Mm.
and to be part of the transition. Don't exclude them completely and go, oh no, we need to only go do one or two things. No, people, our industry is super excited being part of this
Mm.
energy journey and helping and being part of it. So
Mm. Oh, that's really cool. That's yeah, because as someone on the outside of both the energy sector and the government, I just look at this stuff and I go, well, that just must mean that, sure that cripples X, Y, and Z, but to hear that they actually work in tandem is really, really cool.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah, cool. Well, Lawrence Shelton, that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. I really appreciate it. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Excellent. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. And I enjoyed my time.
Fantastic. It was great to meet you. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll speak to you when I speak to you.
Appreciate it, bud. Thanks very much.
No worries, mate. See you. Bye.
Cheers, man.